In the year 941 AD, the city of Constantinople, jewel of the Byzantine Empire and the most powerful stronghold in Christendom, stood on the brink of destruction. A vast fleet of Viking warriors, known as the Rus, sailed across the Black Sea, seeking glory, wealth, and conquest. Their leader, Prince Igor of Kyiv, had one goal: to plunder the greatest city in the medieval world. What they didn't expect, however, was to come face to face with a Byzantine weapon so terrifying, it would turn the tide of battle and alter the course of history forever. This is the story of how fire met steel, how ambition met destruction, and how one failed raid helped shape the destiny of Eastern Europe. The Rus set sail. By the early 10th century, the Rus, descendants of Norsemen who had settled in Eastern Europe, had built a powerful kingdom centered in Kiev. They were fierce warriors, traders, and raiders who frequently traveled down the rivers of modern-day Ukraine and Russia, striking deep into Byzantine territory. Constantinople, the imperial capital, was their ultimate prize. Previous generations of Rus had already launched attacks on the city, but in 941 AD, Prince Igor of Kyiv prepared the most ambitious assault yet. With a fleet of at least 1,000 ships, carrying tens of thousands of warriors, he set his sights on the rich Byzantine lands along the Black Sea and, ultimately, Constantinople itself. As the Rus sailed south, the timing could not have been better. The Byzantine army, led by Emperor Romanos I Lecapenus, was preoccupied with battles against the Arabs in the east. Constantinople, the great walled city that had withstood countless sieges, was left dangerously exposed. Igor and his warriors had every reason to believe that victory was within their grasp. The first wave of destruction. Rather than attacking Constantinople directly, the Rus descended upon the surrounding provinces. They struck the regions of Bithynia and Paphlagonia with terrifying ferocity, pillaging towns, slaughtering civilians, and enslaving thousands. The Byzantines, caught off guard, had little time to mount a defense. The Rus warriors burned homes, desecrated churches, and filled their longships with loot. The people of Byzantium feared that the empire itself was on the verge of collapse. But the Byzantines had a secret weapon, one that had defended Constantinople for centuries and would now be unleashed upon the invaders with devastating effect. Greek fire, the weapon of the gods. As the Rus fleet drew closer to Constantinople, expecting an easy victory, they were met by the Byzantine navy. But this was no ordinary naval battle. The Byzantine warships, known as dromons, were equipped with one of the most terrifying weapons of the medieval world: Greek fire. Greek fire was an incendiary liquid, capable of burning even on water. It was projected through tubes mounted on Byzantine ships, turning entire sections of the sea into an inferno. The Rus, having never encountered such a weapon before, watched in horror as their wooden longships were set ablaze. The fire was inextinguishable. Those who jumped overboard found that even the water burned. Men were incinerated, ships were reduced to ashes, and the Rus fleet was thrown into chaos. Retreat and revenge. The destruction of the Rus fleet was devastating, but Igor was not finished. He gathered his remaining forces and launched an overland invasion, raiding Byzantine territory. 4 months, his warriors ravaged the countryside, but the Byzantines had now recalled their main army from the east. With disciplined troops and superior numbers, the Byzantines struck back, crushing Igor's forces in a series of engagements. Weakened, outnumbered, and facing total annihilation, Igor had no choice but to retreat back to Kiev. Though he had failed to conquer Constantinople, he was not ready to accept defeat just yet. In 944 AD, 3 years after his disastrous campaign, he returned with another army. But this time, rather than engaging in another costly war, he accepted a treaty with the Byzantines. A treaty instead of war, a turning point for history. The Treaty of 944 granted the Rus valuable trade rights with Constantinople. While it may not have been the glorious conquest Igor had envisioned, it proved to be a crucial moment in history. Instead of continued war, relations between the Rus and the Byzantines improved. Over time, cultural exchanges grew. The Rus elite adopted Byzantine customs, and within a few decades, the greatest transformation of all took place. Kievan Rus converted to Orthodox Christianity. This moment laid the foundation for the future of Eastern Europe. The same Rus who had once been sworn enemies of Byzantium would go on to become its allies. The Orthodox faith would spread throughout the lands of the Rus, shaping the cultural and spiritual identity of modern-day Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. From fire and war to faith and civilization, The Viking invasion of Constantinople in 941 AD was a dramatic and brutal event, one that could have changed history forever had the Rus succeeded. Instead, they were met with fire, defeat, and ultimately, an unexpected path toward diplomacy. The Byzantines may have won the battle, but in the long run, they gained something far more significant: an ally, a trading partner, and a cultural influence that would echo through the centuries. The failed Rus invasion was not just another Viking raid, it was a turning point in history. It proved that Constantinople, despite its riches, was not so easily taken. And, in a twist of fate, what began as war led to faith, diplomacy, and the transformation of an entire civilization. What do you think? Could history have turned out differently if the Rus had taken Constantinople? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic historical deep dives.